What is the endocrine system? So in this video, you are going to learn that the endocrine system releases hormones to control the slower responses in and outside our body. And the key things you should be able to do at the end of this video are explain how the endocrine system works to control our body and explain how hormones interact with target cells to get that job done. So what actually is the endocrine system? Well, let's take a step back and remember that all animals need to sense and respond to their environment. So whether you're a person walking through a city, needing to respond to all the different people and the noises around you, or if you're any other animal out in the wild, you'll have predators to respond to, you need to find food, and you need to find shelter. So every animal uses these two body systems to help them sense and respond. And they're the two that we've been learning about in this topic. So we have the nervous system, which we know a lot about already. And the key summary for the nervous system, remember, is it uses neurons, which are nerve cells. And those neurons send rapid, fast messages through the body to respond when we need to respond quickly. Those messages only last a short amount of time, which is a positive and a negative. But if the body needs to respond to things more slowly and have longer lasting messages, that's what the endocrine system does. So instead of neurons, the endocrine system uses hormones. And hormones generally take more time, so they are slower messages, but the messages last longer, which can have some benefits as well. Particularly like the development of your body through growth and through puberty, where you need to control things over a long amount of time. The endocrine system, just like the nervous system, it responds to the external environment, so things outside our body, and the internal environment, things inside our body. So here's a summary of what the endocrine system actually does. It helps control all these really important functions, which I briefly mentioned before. So it helps control all the chemistry happening in our body, which is called our metabolism. So how our muscles work, how quickly we digest things. It also controls how we grow and develop from a baby through children, through childhood, through puberty, and into adulthood. Hormones and the endocrine system also obviously control our reproductive function, and they also control lots of important levels in our body, which is called homeostasis, which we've introduced, and we'll learn more about that later as well. Remember, homeostasis is keeping things balanced, keeping levels balanced inside our body. Keeping a stable internal environment. All right, so here is an overview of how the endocrine system works. It doesn't matter which hormone it is, they pretty much all work in the same way. So let's follow along with the diagram here. So firstly, in step 1, there's some kind of endocrine cells or endocrine glands, and they make up the endocrine system. And their job is to release some hormones. So here's a whole lot of hormones being released. So the hormones get secreted by the gland into the blood. And that's the most important thing, because the bloodstream is the transport system for hormones. There's no actual organs that carry hormones individually. Hormones are just carried in the blood. And that's another example of body systems working together. Our body systems don't work completely on their own. They always interact and help each other to do their job. So the circulatory system helps the endocrine system here. So when those hormones are flowing through the bloodstream, eventually they're going to reach particular cells and those cells are called target cells. So step 2, the hormones are flowing through the bloodstream. When they reach a particular target cell, like this one here, well, that target cell has a little receptor on it, and that means that the hormones can attach to it, and then that cell receives the message that it has to do something differently. And that's the response that happens. If we're thinking of our stimulus response model, we've reached the final step, and that cell goes, okay, I've received the message, I need to respond and do something differently. And depending on the hormone, there's a whole range of different responses that can happen. So the key points are hormones are chemical messengers, whereas remember neurons carry electrical messages in the nervous system. And then they carry the information to target cells and they produce a response. Hormones, they're only ever released in really small amounts. We only need a really few molecules to actually have a response throughout all of our body. And the hormones are transported through the bloodstream to the receptors on the target cells. So that's the overview of how hormones in the endocrine system work. So double check that you learnt all these key points. Make sure to ask some questions if you're still unsure of something, and then let's move on.